Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. We've all been coached before, in school, at work, or on a team. Your first coaches were your mom and dad who taught you how to communicate, tie your shoes, or play a simple game of catch. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Raphael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Raphael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. If you enjoy my show, go ahead and buy me a cup of coffee. Make it a large. To donate, go to paypal.me/SifuRaphael. That's SIFURAFAEL. I'm trying to keep this podcast free of advertisements. Anything you can donate is greatly appreciated. Thank you. I really appreciate your support. My guest today is J.M. Ryerson. J.M. is an author, mindset coach, and host of the Transcend in Life podcast, and has been building companies and leading sales teams for over 20 years. J.M., thank you so much for joining me on the Coaching Call today. How are you?
Brother, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. This will be a lot of fun.
It is. It is going to be a lot of fun. You help so many people, and you've been doing it for so long, that what I really want to know is basically, how did your journey start from when you were a child to growing up, and everything that influenced you, obviously, because you've become who you are today because of your influences and the people around you.
Oh, that's a great question. I've actually never been asked that way. If you were to ask my mom and dad right now, especially my mom, she would say she was a teacher in 39 years. And I thought, and she thought I would always get into that, whether it's teaching, and then ended up being coaching. Well, athletics has always been a big part of my journey and was all through college, but I blew out, my knee 3 times. And I guess it just kind of led into, all right, if I'm not going to physically be doing a sport, how else can I do something that I really love? And that's coaching. I love to help people. I love to learn. I love to share things. So I think that's a short answer to your question, because I'm not sure how long you want to dive into that one.
Well, let's go back to your childhood. What made you think about, hey, Tom over here, or John, or so-and-so, or Mary, I think I know how to help them. I have a solution for them. When did that start happening for you?
That's a good question, man. I mean, I love to read and I love to share that knowledge. That's happened since I was really young. And I'm not sure why. I guess I always watch my folks read, so I just kind of did that as well. And then I started coaching. Even while I was playing, I was coaching basketball as early as 8th grade. I remember coaching teams, coaching soccer. So I just always felt if I learned something, I want to share it. And even my younger brother, we'd be in the backyard and I would share the things, just as I had mentors and people that had helped me along the way. I guess it was pay it forward a little bit. And I just enjoy talking things through and say, oh, I learned this, let's apply it, and then see what happens. So learn, apply, reflect is something I've used for a long, long time. I didn't put that into words until later in life, but you learn it, you apply it, then you reflect, how did it go? And then ultimately share it. Because if you want to, as if you want to become not, maybe it's not a master, but better at something, what better way than to teach it? So that's just always been that way for me.
So in college, you got hurt in college or after college? Or
both. I tore out my knee twice in high school, and then finally the last time in college, and that kind of derailed my sports career. But it was earlier than most.
When did you really say, or did you have other jobs, and then you finally said, this is the direction I want to go into. When did that happen for you?
Well, let's go in specifically. This has been probably a 20 some odd year journey, but I didn't realize I was necessarily on it because I did have this is my fourth company I've built along the way. And I've journaled since my early 20s. And actually, I went back after writing the book, Let's Go In. I went back and I had a journal entry back when I was 20 or 21. And it had Let's Go In, and it had the 3 circles, which is our logo today, almost identical. Wow. But I didn't find it until almost a year ago. So it's been marinating in there, brother, for a while. And I just didn't really put that to paper. So many lessons that I've taught throughout the years, I never documented it. I would just say it and move on. Well, now people are so much better about videoing things, or a lot of people write books. And so I finally said, you know what, let's write some of this stuff down so that it's not just, sitting up in our head so that people can apply it. And that really started the journey. I didn't really mean to, I guess, but I love it. And it's so fulfilling. I love working with people to overcome self-limiting beliefs, because I try not to use the word hate, but I hate self-limiting beliefs. I can't stand them. I want to eradicate them. And so that's really a big part of what Let's Go In is all about.
Yeah. It's very interesting when you say that, because journaling is really putting out thoughts that can easily escape us later on, because you're like, I said it, but how did I say it, right? And it's like last week, actually, somebody called me at 3:40 in the morning. Then I couldn't go back to sleep. I was going to get up at 6 anyway. So I said, okay. I said, wait a minute. Not only did the phone ring, but there's a thought in my head. And I said, I'll remember it later. And then I'm laying there and I can't go back to sleep. And I'm like, it's nagging at me. I better go write this down. And that's exactly what I did. And now, even today, I was looking at it and I put it in I took a big orange paper and I wrote it on there. And I said, wow. I still believe that thought that came to my head at 3:40 in the morning, but it's been nagging me. So now I have to do something about it, right? Also, that happens to me sometimes when I'm driving and I can't stop and drive it, and write. So I have one of those little recorders, and obviously you could do it on your phone. But if you are on your phone and you're talking, that's not necessarily cool either. So I have a recorder. I also have a recorder that I can press on my car, so I can record as I'm driving. So I could just press a button and record. So sometimes I'll do that, because later on I'll go and listen to it and I go, oh, wow, I didn't think of it that way. So when you talk about journaling, I mean, that's a great way for us to really understand our, in a way, of subconscious mind, and also our daily thoughts that, if we don't reflect on them, then they're going to escape us sometimes. And I've so many thoughts I've had, and they're gone. And it's interesting, right?
Well, there's science at play there, right? So we have almost approximately 40,000 thoughts go through our head a day. So when we say, oh, I'll just remember that, it probably won't. And even if it's really profound. So what's interesting about what you said is you said 3:40 a.m. They've showed that creatively 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., for whatever reason, that's when our creative juices are at their height. Now, you getting up and actually documenting that's really important, because something is in there saying, I got it. This is in there and I want to explore it. By simply writing it down, it's such a huge thing. I always say it's the best form of therapy, and it's free. It's a piece of paper and it's a pen, and there's zero judgment. I have never been judged one time by that paper. It's never said, oh, you're crazy. Oh, it's never said anything back, but it's allowed me to write down a thought and then explore where that's going to go. So I love that you do that. And it happens, right? Like you said, you're driving and you're not focused on it, but something really hits you. Or I don't know, for whatever reason, in the shower, I get a lot of those thoughts. And so I know a guy that has Aqua Notes, and he literally has it in his shower so he doesn't forget it. So anyway, I could talk about this subject for a long time, because it's been such a impactful thing for me, for introspection, reflection, and just really exploring hey, why am I thinking this way? And what could we do with that?
Mm-hmm. I like aqua notes. I like that idea. That's pretty cool. I never heard of
Yeah,
it.
it's a guy that we were talking about this subject and he's like, man, the shower. I was like, yes. He goes, oh, use aqua notes. Oh,
So is that something you buy where? On Amazon or anywhere?
you know it, brother. Amazon holds it all anymore. So yeah, you can grab it on there.
Wow, that's a great tip. Thank you. I think I'll be ordering. When we talk about mindset, and you've been helping so many people with that in mind, there's so many aspects to it, right? And you already mentioned one of them is the limiting beliefs, and it's the self-limiting beliefs. And sometimes those limiting beliefs go into the people who are around you because you're pushing those limiting beliefs on them as well. So let's talk a little bit about limiting beliefs.
Yeah, where do you want to start, man? Because so many of them are given to us
Yes.
before we even have a long-term memory. I've heard as high as 80% of our hardwires are put into us before the age of 5. Now, why is that so impactful? Because again, we are inheriting generations of thoughts, some good, some not so good. I'll give you an example. And this is one I've talked about with my dad, so I'm totally good sharing it. He would say the pretty people would, whether they were driving a nice car or they were going to the country club. And I took that as a very negative connotation towards money. He didn't mean it as a negative, but that's how I really adopted that. And so it took me, especially as I started making, significant money in my early to mid 20s, I felt bad about it. And money, actually, I didn't have a very healthy relationship with that. That's an example of a self-limiting belief that was given to me without me really thinking, why do I think money is bad? Where is that coming from? So that just took time to process, to say, money's not bad. You could start a nonprofit. You can give back to charity. You can go help more people is really the idea now. But yeah, man, self-limiting beliefs, we're given so many. And I know you know this because so often, like you said, we will say, oh, you can't do this. And you're putting that on them because you're trying to protect them. You should really never tell anybody they can't do anything ever. Is really, if my kids say I'm going to be and they both do, one's going to be a professional tennis player and one's going to be actually number 1 in the world tennis player, and one's going to be a professional baseball player. Do you think for a moment I'm going to say, yeah, the odds are not in your favor? Never. Absolutely. You will be number 1 if you put in the work and you really believe in yourself. I will never tell my kids anything else. I will never give them the odds against them, because who am I to say they can't?
Right. And it's important to help those people who have a belief follow that dream. And even if it never comes to fruition, that's okay. But then, as a dad myself, if your child says something where they're going to achieve something and they don't do it, we also need to be there for them when that happens, right? So, and knowing that, yeah, I believe in you and it didn't happen, and what can we take away from it? So it's those learning lessons when there's failure as well. Let's talk about what prompted you to write your first book.
Well, I've talked about them already. It's my 2 boys. The idea was, and I'll give you a quick story on it, because I talked about writing this book for my boys for about 3 years. And I put all my goals in my bathroom mirror, so it's very visible to anyone that is in my bathroom, I guess.
Right.
And about 3 years into that, my son said, hey, Dad, how's the book going? And it crushed me, because all I could tell him is, Trey, I have about the first chapter done. And that day it crushed me, but it also inspired me. I said, nope, I'm going to finish this today, because we don't know what's going to happen. And the idea of this book is not my lessons. They're lessons from my parents, from my grandparents, from my mentors, authors that I've read. And it was really just taking all these ideas and making it as simple as possible and applicable in 12 areas of life to live your best life. And so I ended up writing the book. It was for my 2 boys. And I had a gal that I was working with say, gosh, I didn't think you were a selfish person. And I said, I didn't think I was either. And she said, if you only share this with 2 human beings, you're very selfish. All right, no problem. Let's publish this. And so that's what we did is wrote the book, published it, and it's just been a cool journey because it's not about me. It's about these lessons. And when people say, oh, that really was awesome, I needed to hear that. That is so fulfilling because if you can help somebody, and you being a coach, you understand this. When you help somebody, when you see them light up because of something you taught them, there's not much more rewarding things in this world. That is such a good feeling to say, wow, this one little piece of advice or this one thing that you could apply that really shaped or changed or impacted them. That is a gift that I love giving and I want to keep giving as best I can.
How many books have you written so far?
I only call it a 1.5. I guess I'm supposed to say 2 because the other one is similar to a journal, and that's the one called Champion's Daily Playbook. That one just published, I think about a month ago. But 2 would be your answer. Right. But the second one is so much. It's only like 11 pages of reading, and then it's really 90 days worth of things that you'll do. And in 90 days, you can create habits that really can change your life. So 2 would be the appropriate answer, I guess, but I call it about 1.5 because the second one was a heck of a lot easier to write.
Yeah. But, one of the things that you just brought up is habits, right? And when we think about attaining a bad habit, man, that happens like on the spot, right? But creating good habits, that takes longer. Or getting rid of bad habits, that takes a lot longer. So let's discuss a little bit about, and you said 90 days to create really sustainable habits, because you can create a habit and then it goes away. But to create a sustainable habit, that's where the impact really falls into, because it has to sustain if it's worthwhile, right? If you're going to spend 90 days creating this thing and then 6 months later it's gone, then you wasted your time. But when you sustain that habit, and so you have a formula, and obviously you wrote a book on how to keep a sustainable habit, am I right?
Yeah, so a part of the journal is looking for patterns, looking for triggers, because we all have them. For instance, if I'm driving down the freeway today and somebody cuts me off, and maybe that triggers me to go, what is that guy doing? And so it puts me in a bad mood. Well, A, that person probably didn't mean to cut me off. B, that's just a trigger for me to say, okay, that puts me in a bad mood. So now if I don't recognize that, now I'm in a bad mood towards my spouse or towards my next phone call, and I'm taking this baggage in. And so what you want to find is, okay, that's a trigger. Do I have a positive trigger? I do. I love listening to music. So maybe there's my favorite song. I'll play that right after that person cuts me off, and it's like, okay, now it's gone. Or I'll box breathe, which we can talk about later, but I'll do something to trigger off to offset the negative trigger. Now, once I've recognized that, I can now start to say, okay, a habit is when something negative happens, let's offset that. So I'm cued, it's negative. Let's figure out how to offset that. And the most recent studies say that 66 days is what it takes to really form what would be habitual or something that just is on autopilot where you don't have to think about it. So does that mean 66 days in a row? I don't know, because our brains are so fascinating. Maybe it's not. Maybe some people for 15 days and they can make it habitual. But for a lot of us, maybe it is that 90 days. And I've just found that 90 days, you can really make something so it does become habitual, and it's something you don't have to think about. It just kind of becomes autopilot. And one question you can always ask yourself is what I'm doing right now helping me get closer to my goals or further away? And if you ask these questions, and I'm not talking about, because we have so many habits like brushing our teeth, waking up, putting on our socks, like those are habits you really don't need to think about. I'm talking about the really defining ones. Like I'm looking at Facebook 10 times a day. Is that helping me get towards my goal or is it not? And maybe it is. Maybe you are a social media star and that's what you need to do. Cool. I'm not. So I know looking at Facebook that much, that's not really helping me. So maybe that would be a habit that I would want to offset by looking at it once a day or twice a day or something reasonable and then fill the other times that I'm not looking at Facebook with things that are going to get me closer to that goal: reading, meditating, exercising, taking care of the mind, the body, and the soul.
Right, right. So you're talking about structure when you think about it, right? If you can structure your day, now your day won't be gone because you know what's going to be happening. And you can change that because it's planning, right? When we think about our days is how do we start our day? What are we going to do? Are we going to work? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? And one of the things I recently read is that if you wake up and the first thing you do is think and open your social media, and you're not in the social media business, you're literally training your brain to do something not necessarily a positive because, yeah, it may be entertaining and you're looking at all these things that may not necessarily be real as well. Also, reading your email and all these things where you should have a dedicated time when you're doing that. So if we can structure our day, and like you said, maybe in the morning or at night or a certain time, and then let it go after that. But unless that's part of your job, then that's different. But when we think about structuring our day, when do we think about it? When it's happening, or do we plan it, right?
That's a great way to put it. I mean, who's running your agenda? And is it the people on Facebook? Is it the media? I don't want anybody else to run my agenda. So again, I start very simply every single day. I start with my affirmation, and I start with what's my intention for the day? My intention is to be as present in the moment, every single moment. So right now I'm with Raphael. That's all I'm with.
Mhm.
I'm going to give him 100% to he and his audience. And then when that's done, I'll get to my next task. That was my intention this morning is I'm going to be present because I have a very busy day today, but I don't want to think about what's coming up at 5:00 this evening. I want to think about right now at 9:21, what am I giving to this audience? And if you, and that's one example of setting your intention and running your agenda and not allowing, to your point, Facebook or the news. Gosh, I really don't want them running anybody else's agenda because that's probably not serving your goals.
Right, right. A lot of people ask me, "Hey, did you see on the news?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I don't have time for the news. If it's that important, I'll know." So it's important for us to understand where we're going with our day and who is in control of it, them or you.
Yep, exactly right, brother. I love it.
So, Jim, when you decided to start a podcast, and I want to talk a little bit about that, what prompted you?
The pandemic actually got me to do it. I had thought about doing it for a long time, and here's why. I love information. And so often, I told you guys already, I love to read, but I can't read and run at the same time. I can't read and drive a car at the same time. So there's times when you need, I guess you can listen to an audiobook, so that's not technically true.
Right.
But there's times when I'm soaking in all this information, and I was like, you know what? I want to share other thoughts. I want people to hear about Let's Go Win, not for Let's Go Win. I want to reach people from around the world that are doing some really impactful things, and I want people to hear about their story. I just started it thinking, all right, it'll help grow the audience, and it has, and that's cool. But I'll tell you, and I'm sure you feel the same way, I have met more remarkable people by doing the podcast. There's a community of podcast listeners and podcast hosts and guests, and it's so unique. And I don't, for instance, my best friend is coming into town tomorrow, and I'm going to have him as a guest because I'm going to learn more about him. And I've known him for, almost 30 years. I've known this man.
Right.
And I will learn something really significant about him because of the questions I ask in the podcast. That's why I don't know that I started for that reason, but that's what I've discovered in this journey is you learn so much about another human being, and it's so cool. So I love it. It's one of my favorite forums, and it really gets me going every single day.
Mm-hmm. The name of your podcast, obviously, is important to you, and how'd you come about that name? And then, tell us the name of your, I mean, I know it, but just tell us.
Well, so it's interesting because a transcend in life is what I actually started with. And that's because the word transcend, which is the last chapter of Let's Go Win, it's a really important word to me. And that really, to me, means overcoming self-limiting beliefs. But what's funny, I was meeting with a marketing company and they're like, why did you name your podcast Transcend in Life? I said, well, it's really important to me. They're like, let's go win. Everybody wants to win. You need to name your podcast Let's Go Win. So literally, I have shifted that back to Let's Go Win. But the idea is to transcend in life. So the name of the podcast is Let's Go Win. But you'll see, if you were to look it up, you'll see Transcend in Life and Let's Go Win. But moving forward, it is Let's Go Win, just because it's easier to say, it's easier to remember, and most people understand it. The word transcend, that's a big word to really break down.
Yeah. When you think about it, Let's Go Win has been your journey, because when you actually found it a year ago, but you wrote it back in, was that in college when you were in your 20s?
It was, yeah. And you know what's interesting? People are always like, is it about wins and losses? And I'm like, actually, it's not. The idea is to put yourself in the best possible position to win. But you talked about it earlier. I fail all the time. I'm one of the world's best failures because I put myself out there and fail. The whole idea is just to give yourself the chance, because there's not a worse feeling to think back and regret, gosh, I wish I had done this, or man, I wish I had done that. I don't ever want to feel that way. I want to put myself out there 100% in this world. We're not here very long. So why waste any time not putting ourselves out there? And so the whole idea is let's go win. That doesn't mean you're going to win you're not going to go undefeated. I don't know any organization that has ever gone undefeated for their entirety of their career. Yeah. And I'm sure you being martial arts, you don't know anybody that went undefeated their entire career. It just doesn't exist. So it's not about wins and losses. It's putting yourself in position to be your very, very best every single moment. Whether you win or you lose is immaterial. It's really just a mindset.
Mm-hmm. Because when you think about it, even if you're going to go, say, play a game of basketball or anything, even tennis, and it doesn't matter what it is, and it's just with your friends even, your goal is to win, right? When you put yourself out there, you come with the best intentions, and we talked about intentions. Your best intention is to accomplish something, right? You want to score, you want to get a goal, you want to get a basket, you want to hit the ball, you want to hit a home run. Maybe you never will, but trying to hit that home run. Because if you ever have been at bat, when that ball is coming, yeah, maybe you have to hit a line drive, but what do you really want to do? And you say, if I can hit a home run, I'm going to go for it, right? So it's that intention to win. And I love what you've done with it, because it's not about the loss. It's what you learn from the loss so that you can move forward.
It's so true. I had somebody, again, going back to podcasts, and I asked him what was failure. And he goes, the only way you fail is if you don't learn. He's like, look, you fail all the time, but it's not truly a failure unless you don't learn from it. And I thought that was such a profound, succinct way to say that. And I've used it. I said, brother, I got to use that moving forward. He's like, yes. Take it. It's not mine. And it's so true. It's like, if the only way you truly fail, is if you didn't learn from it. And I'm talking, I've seen people go through bankruptcies. I've seen people, lose serious relationships. The only way you fail is if you don't learn from it. It's just an experience. It's a life experience. So let's go win. Let's go out there again and put ourselves in the best possible position. So again, let's say it was a breakup. Don't bring that baggage from the breakup into your new relationship, because that's not setting ourselves up to win. We're actually bringing in failure, or the idea of that. So you got to leave that and bring that whole new you, your best version of you, to the relationship. So
when I teach the little kids, I ask them, I said, are you a winner? And they're like, yeah. I said, are you a quitter? They're like, no. And I said, so winners never quit, and quitters never win, right? And they're like, yeah. One of the things when I talk to the kids and I have them put their hands behind their back so they're relaxed and not fidgeting all over, and I have them open their legs so they look like an A. And I say, guys, when I say at ease, I want you to say we're champions, sir, right? So that way, they're listening like a champion. And then, they're going to raise their hand if I have questions for them, which I always do, because I'm always encouraging the little guys to think. Because in school, are they asking them to think? I don't think so. And what winds up happening, they're not teaching them character development, especially at a young age. A 5-year-old, I've had 5-year-olds, I say, are you ready? And one kid screams out, I was born ready. So when we can think that way as a child, it eliminates all that fear of trying things, of doing things, as long as they're safe, right? And I shouldn't say anything about safe, because before the word parkour was invented or came out, I was doing it. I was jumping from roof to roof. I was doing all these crazy things that if I saw a kid doing, I'm like, don't do it. You're going to get hurt. But when we think about the fear of doing something new or trying something out, I mean, look, even kids that are afraid to go to their school dance because, I might have to dance. But no, my son was at that point, and I took him to the dance, and he's like, Dad, but I don't dance. I said, that's okay. Socialize, talk to people. I said, you don't have to dance. I said, but by the way, you and I dance all the time. I throw music on, I get the kids moving. They're like, Dad, that was so much fun. And I said, it's the same thing. Just let go. Don't relax. Nobody's really judging you, because what they're doing is, if they're pointing at you, they have 3 fingers pointing back at themselves. So they're really judging themselves for their thoughts.
I love that. In dancing, I actually talked about this in one of my blogs, but I love this. And here's why. If you ask a 5-year-old to go dance, you won't have one of them say what your son said.
Right.
That's a learned behavior. You watch 4 or 5-year-olds, they dance. They can't help themselves. We are born to dance. This learned behavior of I don't dance. And I love that you said you dance with me all the time, because again, the only person shaming or possibly judging is yourself. If you go out there and just have a great time, you're going to put science at play. You're going to have fun, right? When you move, endorphins are going and good things are happening. But it's so interesting, this concept, because a 5-year-old will go dance, but that 15-year-old a lot of times won't. And that's such a learned behavior. I hope people really hear that, because I don't care if you dance or you don't. I really don't. I love to dance, right?
Likewise.
I'm always putting myself out there. That is a learned behavior that so you can unlearn it as well.
One of the things during COVID, because we were shut down, and I had a premonition that something was coming. So I started learning and getting into all the details and how to set things up in January. And we were closed March 16th. And I just told my clients, hey guys, we're back 100% on Zoom on Wednesday. It was a Monday, and Wednesday we're back on. I made sure all the protocols were in set. And I heard a lot of people getting these pedophiles or who knows what, jumping on Zoom calls and doing the wrong thing. So I made sure all my securities were there. And the way I would start class is with a little dance party. Every class I would throw music on, and the kids, I'm like, let me see your moves. And I'd be dancing, they'd be dancing. And at the end of class, another dance party. And the kids looked up to that. They looked forward to it. And then also when I start my regular classes, even now, I drum. I have a big Chinese drum, and we drum. And now the kids, they have sticks of their own, and they drum on the floor. So we're all getting into that sound. The sound is going to let them know, wow, I'm coming alive. I'm here for a reason. This is what I'm doing. And every time after I drum, I stop for a second, and they all look at me, and I go, wow, you guys are really good. You're doing amazing. Let's keep going. And we're drumming, and they're all getting into it. So it's that movement, that energy that you can bring and share with other people. But if you're afraid to do that, you can't explore. You can't understand or feel.
Me not being a martial artist, I don't know, but what I would say and what I hear, and when I've talked to you guys that are really masters, and you really are masters at this, the spiritual aspect of all that is so unique. And it's especially because of, again, a lot of the Eastern influence. And that's a big part of it, right? It's just the spiritual side of things. And I love that you're bringing in, again, the drum. the music. And that is something that not everybody gets to experience. That's really cool that you do that. And now you make me want to go be at your class, brother. I got to get in there.
We have fun, but when we think about life, right? Do you want to do things that are phony, or do you want to do things that work and are real? So when I teach martial arts, and I tell my students, look, I teach Kung Fu, so I'm going to teach you some moves that are kind of a little bit fancy and they're kind of cool and they're fun to do. I said, but don't ever use that in a real situation. I said, you pick, I'm going to give you so much information, but it's what you choose to use is yours, not mine. Because the way I fight is going to be way different than the way you fight. But you have to choose and pick your arsenal, right? Put this in your belt, your tool belt, right? So if you are in a real life situation, you choose and pick what works for you. Because what works for you may not work for me, and what works for me may not work for you. One is because maybe you practice one move more than the others. So when we talk about understanding where we are and where we're going, that's setting goals, right? And that's you talked about that earlier, where you're on a journey and what's your destination? If you can write the last 10 minutes of your life, what would they be and who would be there?
Are you asking me right now?
In general, anybody.
Oh, it's a huge question.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think oh man, and even putting yourself, that's why I'm asking you. Are you asking me right now? Because get ready for some waterworks and tears coming
Let's
because
do it.
It's gonna be there, brother. That's the last chapter of your life. But wow, that's a huge question. I hope your students are all asking that. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, and like I said, who's there, right? So we're not fortunate to know when our time is up. We don't know who will be there, but it's your actions today that may reflect on who's going to be there later, right? Who's gonna be with you, and who do you want to be with you? Those people, I guess, your inner circle, right? Those are the people that, if you treat them right today, they'll be there tomorrow, right? And a lot of times we misguide what we say to people, or we misunderstand, or they misunderstand us. And sometimes we need to bring that clarity so that later on, I'll say something to someone and they'll be a little iffy, and then I'll say, "Do you understand?" They're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "That means no." They're just afraid to say, "I don't understand what you're saying." And so what I do is I'll clarify it, and maybe I'll say it a different way, and this is what I mean, and this is because words, they're going to create the message, and the message can be heard different ways by different people. One of the things that I do when I teach a technique, and I'll say to everybody, "Do you understand?" And everybody says yes. So I test them. I said, "Okay, do the technique, and if anybody doesn't do the technique the way that you understand, the way I need you to understand what I'm asking you to do, then you're going to do 50 push-ups or something." All of a sudden their hands go up. Wait, I didn't get that. So now we get into clarity, right? Because our message is not always heard the same by everybody. And some people got it. They understand what you're saying, where you're coming from, and then other people don't. So sometimes we have to deliver the message in many different forms.
100%. And one of the things you said that I use all the time is past is pain, future is anxiety, present is everything. And what I mean by that, it doesn't mean that everything in my past is painful. Actually, I have a lot of wonderful memories. But if I'm thinking about how great it was back in the day, how good am I thinking it is right now? Or the future part of it, if I'm thinking about this, how it's going to be, that's just creating anxiety. Instead, what you said earlier is if you are present in the moment, giving everything you have to this moment, you're building this amazing. And so the last 10 pages of your book, of the chapter of your life, you're right. It's going to be so rewarding, fulfilling, but start now, right? Don't start 10 years from now. Start right now, starting in this very moment. I love that.
Yeah, it's incredible when you think about life gives us so many opportunities. And sometimes if we're sitting on the couch and just watching TV, those opportunities are not going to come. So it's like we talked earlier, what are you doing with your day? If you're going to watch TV, maybe you should have it planned. You should have it say, you know what, from this time to this time, I'm just going to chill. I'm going to, nothing and just enjoy something. And we talked about earlier, and a thought came to mind last night. Actually, I always make sure I spend time, no matter how crazy my day is, with my girlfriend. And she knows, she knows when I'm doing certain things. She doesn't bother me. She's amazing at that. But I always make sure that I spend time with her. And if she's watching a show or doing something, I go and I join her. She was watching a thing on Betty White. And then she goes, you want to watch something else? I said, no, I want to watch this because, Betty White's amazing. I mean, the woman is 99 years old and she has the greatest sense of humor. And one of the things, and I really enjoyed it. And even though I said, oh, let's watch this, but I said, no, let's do what you're doing because I want to enjoy you as well. So one of the things that Betty White said, and she goes, sometimes on the highway, I go extra slow. And she goes, I know how to drive. I do it on purpose just to piss people off. So I thought that was hysterical. And she is such an amazing person. And it's when you think at such an age where she's 99 years old, she's still doing things. She's still on television. She's still making people laugh because she's found joy in what she does. And when we think about joy is what part of your day do you find joy? I'll be honest with you, and somehow it happened. I probably laugh every day, several times a day, a real laugh. It's not fake, it's real. And it's become part of my day. It's just like I love having a good time. I enjoy everything. But then there's also, you have many different hats, where it's business hat, this hat, and enjoying life and being able to take it into our later years and participate in life and participate with other people. Because when you think about some people, all they say is, I'm too old to do this. I'm too old to do that. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're alive, aren't you? If you're breathing and you're consuming my air, you better be enjoying your life, because they call it the golden years for a reason, right? The golden years doesn't mean sit down and sit, on your tush and just watch TV all day and think of what the old days were. Golden years means let's enjoy them. Let's participate. Let's do something. Let's even give back. Because sometimes for people who are looking to get into business, there's some volunteers who did what you want to do. And there's some groups that they're led by volunteers. There's one near me. It's on the college campus, and it's retired people who want to help young people understand business and how to run a business. So if anybody out there is listening to, like, I want to start a business, sometimes there's free advice out there that you can get. And then sometimes there's people that you really need to get in touch with, like yourself. Somebody, not only are they in business, but they want to improve their business. So my understanding is that if I want to improve my business, I better call you.
Well, I will say, because you said laughing and enjoying, I've been fortunate enough to be a part of 4 companies as a partner, as a founder, and the word fun has been a core value of all 4. So courage, fun, transcend for Let's Go Win, fun, drive, and love for another one. And then my family values are courage, fun, and love. But fun, F-U-N, 3 letters, is a part of all of it, because we are not on this earth. Now, Betty White, 99 years. That's pretty awesome. And you know what? She is still living it fully. And she's not saying I'm old, because whoever decided it's 70 or 75 or 80, that's not old. That's age is a number. It's in your head. Does that mean you can move as fast? Maybe you can't. Who cares? It's a different year. It's a different season of life. But to your point with fun, I don't have enough time on this earth not to have fun. And that doesn't mean I don't have bad times too. Of course, we all do.
Of course.
But it's how are you looking at it, right? Are you having fun? Why would you do anything if it's not? I don't understand. Like, I don't love to wash the dishes. I don't. But it's one of my chores at home. guess what? Throw on that music, have a little dance dish party, and I'm having fun. Next thing you know, I'm having a great time. Yeah. Dishes are done. Now I'm like, all right, now what should I do with it? So it is, if I can help anybody with business or anything, that would be a part of it. Is, you said it, man, fun. Let's have a good time. Let's smile. Let's laugh. Enjoy this beautiful thing called life.
But you do a lot of work with businesses, and you help them improve and inspire their teams. Oh, how did you get into working with businesses where they're actually coming to you now instead of you looking out for them?
Well, I've been fortunate, through my company's doing well. I guess people start to recognize, and so referrals come your way. But how did I develop the plan, I guess, or how did that? It's really just getting people to work as effectively as possible on a team. So, for instance, I swam growing up, and I also played basketball, but I always enjoyed playing in football and baseball. I always enjoyed the team sports more. And I believe that every team has the ability to be effective if, and you said the word earlier, there's clarity, if we are clear on our expectations, and if you can set a couple of those things up and you're real clear on what your values are, and then you surround yourself with people with the same values. I'm not saying the same minds, right? Because I love diversity. You want different ideas.
Oh, yeah.
But the values, if you get those values down, it's amazing. So when I coach people and companies, it's really not complex. It's really not. It's simple stuff. But I think that's where once you get that down, you can accomplish great things if you're clear on what we're doing, why. And once we do that, once you know what you're expected to do, just like you're talking about with your students, hey, this is my expectation of you. Do you understand? Yes, I do. Great. If you don't, this is the repercussion that you're going to face. Okay. But if you're clear on your expectations, there really shouldn't be any frustrations. And it's just so much fun. So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question, but I've just been very fortunate. People have found the book. They've known me through business. And I just love working with teams. I love helping teams achieve things that they can do, and individuals, of course. But I really do love working with teams. And the reason I say that, even I'm like a pro golfer I'm coaching right now. He's got a team surrounded him. He's got a mindset coach, me. He's got a golf coach. He's got a trainer. He's got a dietitian. That's a whole team. Whether they realize they're working together or not, they all need to be clear on what the expectations are.
Mm-hmm. Let's say that I have a company of, say, 100 people, and I call you up and I say, look, I need my team to up their level. What are your steps when you come in? And you don't have to give us all your secrets, but there really are no secrets when you think about it. It's so what would you want to start with? And of course, you're going to start talking to the people. But if I, as the owner of this business, and I say, I need your help, what would your first steps be when you come in?
Yeah, the first step is knowing exactly what are we trying to accomplish. And it's funny how often, I will tell you, 9 out of 10 businesses, when I ask that, they are not clear on where they're going for a month, for a quarter, for the year. And that sounds crazy, but it's just true. And you mentioned something earlier about before the pandemic. You got real clear, hey, we're going to Zoom. Most businesses didn't. They paused, they waited. They're like, nope, we're not going to adapt because normal life will come back. Those that did that, they really struggled. So the first thing I do is I get real clear. Where are we going? What are we trying to accomplish? Okay, cool. Who are the players on our team? How do they work together? And then you just start to build, onto it. And for instance, even knowing their core values. So many companies have a mission statement. So you said 100 employees. Ask all of those employees who can say the mission statement. I will bet a great sum of money that 99 out of 100 won't be able to recite it. Maybe the one person is the one that came up with it.
Right.
Or the CEO, maybe. And the point is, if that's your mission, they should know that. And I only talk this way because, I know we're running out of time, but I had a moment where there were 6 core values of a company. I'm on stage talking to the company and we're listing off, and I could only name 5 of the 6 core values. And I was one that wrote it. And I was so smart that day, Raphael, I decided to add a 7th value to it. But what was I thinking? The point was it was too much. And so we got very clear, got down to 3 core values. Ever since, our business just continues. It's like 20% growth, 30% growth. Maybe you go stagnant for a month, but you continue to grow. All because everyone's very clear on where we're going, who is supposed to do what, and how do we work together. And when you do that, you can accomplish some really, really incredible things.
It's incredible what you just said, because you're right. 99 out of 100 wouldn't know the mission statement unless the person who wrote it. And I like the way you said it, because, and you know, you see all these millionaire shows, you remember the Undercover Millionaire, all that stuff. When you look at the core values of a business, that's what's going to set it apart from other businesses, right? And thinking on that, and if everybody's on the same page, then you have a winning team. And I think what you're doing is you're making everybody read the same page and understand what their goals are. And it should be a unified goal, because that's where success comes.
Yeah. And I've had many meetings where I'm like, hey, here's what this company stands for. If you don't feel comfortable, there's the door. I've had people walk out and I'm okay with that, because why would I want somebody that doesn't believe in that to be a part of that team? They're going to be miserable if they're not feeling the mission, if they're not part of those core values. It's just never going to work. It's not going to work for them. It's not going to work for you. So why waste each other's time? Go find a company that does share those core values. And so it's really interesting how much addition happens by subtraction initially. And it's scary, you know, where you'll move people from being an executive and maybe they're just in the wrong role. And by the way, you'll see the sigh of relief, both from the parties involved and the person leaving. It's like, I just wish somebody had said this earlier. And it's like, yeah, it's okay. It's okay that we didn't see eye to eye, or that we weren't clear on what we were trying to accomplish. Look, life is busy. That happens all the time. Let's get simple. And that's one thing, Raphael, that I do, that I will say, is I try to simplify everything in life, because the world's complicated enough. We don't have time for more stuff. You'll never hear me say, hey, the top 10 things to do. You'll never hear me say more than the top 3 things, because our brain can process 3. 10 is just too much. So anyway, that's the other thing that I think value-wise is just making it more simple.
I like what you said about finding where people kind of fit in. Because if you're looking at the structure of a company and somebody is not in the right role, not necessarily, maybe that's how they came into it or somebody put them there. But if you're looking really at the synergy of the company, when you're thinking about it, is this is a great person. We really don't want to lose them, but they are not performing well in this role. Let's find out what their strengths are, right? And then put them in the right role, and boom, they flourish. So it's definitely diving deep into the mentality of the people working for you. One of the things I'll say quickly, and I know we have to go, because you're such a busy guy, right? Which is a great thing, by the way. In the past, as a martial arts instructor and having a business and having to pay the bills, I would take everybody on. Anybody, you come through my door, I try to sign you up as quickly as I can. Try a class, boom, sign up. Okay. I don't do that anymore. Now, what I do is I let them try it for a month. No commitment. Try it for a month. I give them an easy in, and I say, and they're like, well, what is it afterwards? I said, well, I'd rather we find out if you're the right fit for us and we're the right fit for you. Well, how much is it afterwards? I said, well, if that's what you're concerned about, I said, you can try it, and then we'll, think about it. You're not just testing us. You're not just evaluating us. We're evaluating you, because the value of my customers has become super important. And I'm going to protect my current customers with new customers coming in. And I want to make sure that you're the right fit for us. All of a sudden, I took that away from them. And a lot of them will say, oh, well, I am the right fit. Well, prove it, right? I got to prove myself. They're coming so I can prove myself. But you got to prove it to me now that I want you here. And I want you to be mixing in with my other customers, which I really value. And I've had people say, oh, this is a great offer, but how much is it? And because I won't tell them, all of a sudden they're like, well, this is not for me. So I realize that their values are not the same. And one of the things I'm really looking for is if it's a family unity, because if they're bringing a child and the parents that think this is a drop off, this is not for them. Not for me anyway, because I want the parents who are coming in, I want them involved because it's important. We're both trying to accomplish something is to help raise your child and make him a great citizen.
I was at a leadership summit and I heard something that helped so much for me. And the guy said, get out of the hourly game and get into the outcome game. And when he said that, I was like, boy, isn't that the truth? It's not $100 an hour, $500 an hour, $10,000 an hour. Some coaches do charge that.
Oh, yeah.
But if I could change your life, if I could, whatever they're trying to accomplish. So why are you coming to me for martial arts? I want discipline. I want, flexibility. I want exercise, whatever that is, whatever. And if that aligns, does it really matter if I'm going to provide that, what the cost is? It really doesn't if you think about it. And so when he said that, I was like, boy, and I changed. I was like, nope, I'm not. I used to charge hourly for some things too. And it's like, no, I'm in the outcome game. If I can take a company from $1 million to $2 million, is it worth 10%? I don't know, maybe, and that's really, that's the unique part is just getting clear on what are we trying to accomplish. So anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently had a woman who came in with a child and all she cared about was price. And then I said to her, this is what it is. It's this much for the month. Try it out. It includes a uniform. And she's like, okay, I got to go talk to my husband. I said, let me ask you, what do you need to talk to him about? I'm just curious. If he was here, would he think that this is a good thing? She goes, I don't know. I really have to. I said, I respect that. Absolutely. Go ahead and call us back whenever you're ready. She called back within 5 minutes because she called him on the phone when she drove away, and she said, okay, I'm coming back for class today. And class was in a half hour. And I already had done a session with her son. And she came back within half hour and she signed up for the month. And then when I talked to her, and I'm thinking this woman is not gonna sign up because she's only concerned about money. So when I sat down and talked to her, she said, well, tell me what you expect from me. She goes, oh my God, everything that I didn't expect, you're giving me more than I expected. So I said, okay. And then it turns around that she signed up. And initially it was about money, but when she saw the value she was getting, boom. One last question for you. I know you have to go. You're so busy. Do you currently have mentors?
Of course. I would tell anybody right now, do not work, and hear me loud and clear, do not work with anyone that doesn't have their own coach or mentor. I will always have a mentor. I will always have multiple coaches because I don't care. Think of the greatest athlete ever. So let's say it's Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, Babe Ruth, whatever sport you're into. Think of the greatest. And did they always have a coach? Every single one of them always had a coach. Why? Because we can't see our own flaws. When we look in the mirror, we can't see an exact what's happening. So to answer your question, absolutely. And I will for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I agree. Coaching. And this is why I'm doing this podcast, because I believe in coaching so much. Everybody needs someone to be able to have an outside view looking in, right? So we need that. We need someone to guide us and show us, hey, you can do it this way instead. And let's take a look at your results. And you want to get a coach who actually is interested in and invested in your outcome.
Exactly right, brother. We have to, and again, align with them. You have to make sure that they are going to push, and they're not just giving you a pat on the back. So often I've told my coach, I don't want to hear the good, although he's like, sometimes you need to, but I want to know my flaws. I want to know where I can get better. Drives my wife nuts, but I am in constant pursuit to get better because why not? Why not try to hit ultimate human potential? Why not try? So absolutely.
Yeah. Jim, thank you so much for today. I really appreciate your time. So many words that you portrayed out there and you put out there, because when we think about communication and engaging, it's the words we use and how we use them to be able to affect other people. So I know your words today, you taught me so much, and I know anybody listening to this podcast, I hope they too take your words and run with them.
No, brother, I appreciate the time. I had a great time. I guess I would leave with saying, if you did enjoy, if there's anything that I brought to the table, go check out Champions Daily Playbook. It's on Amazon. I think it's $9.99. It's like $10. But I really do believe it can help a lot of people. And if you like that, then go to letsgowin.com and I do blogs. And I want to share with the world from my mentors, from those people that we talked about, so many of those ideas. So I just appreciate the platform, and I appreciate how you show up in the world, man. I think it's amazing, and you're definitely influencing a lot of people to live their best life. And I'm all about that.
I appreciate that. I am going to make one request, and I'll send you a check for a signed book. Two signed books. I'll send you the cash. Don't worry about that.
No, you don't need to send me anything, brother. They are coming your way. I will make sure. I'll let my wife know, and we will get that off to you.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to continued friendship.
Me as well, man. I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Have a great one.
Too.
All right. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'll be back with a new episode and a new guest. You can find all episodes of the Coaching Call podcast on Apple, Anchor, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you listen to podcasts. I ask that you please leave me an honest review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. If you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and buy me a cup of coffee. Make it a large. I'm trying to keep this episode free of advertisements. Anything you can donate to the cause is greatly appreciated. To donate, go to paypal.me/Sifu Raphael. Thank you, and I really appreciate your help.